Welcome to the Cutting Edge Convention, a worldwide movement to revolutionize your life. No more stumbling around in the dark, wasting precious weeks, months, and years trying to figure it out on your own. Get ready for valuable innovations and strategies. And now, here's your host, Marcy Peters, the Age Backward Mentor.
Welcome back to the Cutting Edge Convention, innovations to revolutionize your life. I'm Marcy Peters, America's whole life coach and the Age Backward Mentor. I help smart, successful men and women step into a life they love and a body they love being in. Today, I'd like to introduce you to Cindy Holbrook, and let me tell you a bit about her before we jump in. Today, our topic is Your Past Does Not Define You, and that's really awesome news. Cindy Holbrook is a certified coach, author, and speaker. She inspires women just like you to own their truth and play big in life. Cindy holds degrees in psychology and sociology. She is the author of the upcoming book, Live Fully, Love Fully, and the founder of LiveFullyLoveFully.com. And this is where you can go for inspiration and practical suggestions to live life to the fullest. Cindy, welcome.
Thank you. It's my pleasure to be here.
Awesome. Okay. So I know you have a story of your own and how you got into this work in the first place. Let's touch on that before we dive into our topic.
As far as for inspiring women, I didn't come from a Leave It to Beaver family in any way, shape, or form. I used to say my family made the word dysfunctional. I was sexually, physically, and mentally abused by my father, plus I was sexually abused by two family friends growing up, which led me to jump into a mentally abusive marriage at the age of 18, in which I stayed in for 20 years. During that time, I didn't think that I had a choice in my life, and I was just responding and reacting to everything that had happened to me and truly believed that that defined who I was. And whenever I discovered that that wasn't the case and I started growing and learning about self-improvement and started tuning into myself, I discovered that regardless what my past was, it did not define who I am today. And it led me to live the life I live today with a very healthy relationship and also a blossoming business that I love, inspiring women and helping them to live life to the fullest of themselves.
Awesome. I love it. Was there one thing that caused you to make this shift that you talked about?
I do believe so. My first coach that I had, we were talking and I was very depressed. I was probably even suicidal at that time. My life was pure hell. And she told me, Cindy, your life is your choice. And I thought, what in hell are you talking about, woman? There's no way anybody would choose the life that I have right now. I was grieving the death of both of my parents, my grandmother, plus about 5 other people in my immediate family. My marriage was on the rocks. My teenage daughter was rebelling against the world. And, I didn't feel like nothing in my life was right. I remember I used to just cling to this little tiny hope that something somewhere had to get better. But the more I thought about my life was my choice, and the more she talked to me, because I understood that even though I had no control over all these outside forces, I had no control over what my ex was doing at that time, what my daughter was doing. I had no control over everybody dying, but I did have control over my response to it rather than just merely reacting to everything that was happening.
Absolutely. I think I call it the superpower of choice, and we all have this superpower, and we don't always necessarily realize that it is a choice in how we respond to the circumstances, exactly what you said, and it's really powerful. Okay, so let's talk about beliefs. Beliefs are a big part of this internal dialogue and what we're creating in our lives.
And with beliefs, that's why my passion is for women. I dedicate everything I do to my mother. And my mother was a victim in her own right. My father never hit her. He never beat her, but he was horrible to us, and he definitely controlled her every move. But very interestingly, I'm into genealogy. And the things that I found out about my own past and things that I've learned about other people's, all of our beliefs are learned. And even though women have came a long way in the past 50 years, we still have a long way to go. And one thing that has held us back so much is, who do we learn from whenever we're little? We learn from our moms, we learn from our grandmothers. And so even, my daughter's 37 and she learned from me, she learned from my mother. And so she even still has some of these old beliefs simply because they were passed down, beliefs and values about what and who a woman is supposed to be, such as a lot of, people used to say a woman's place is in her home. Or, woman was to serve man. I do a Blog Talk radio show with a male co-host to get the he said, she said version of things. And it was interesting. One time he said, the woman's the glue that holds the family together. And I said, but we don't want to be the glue. We want to be an equal partner. And this is one of those old beliefs that have been passed down. So whenever we talk about beliefs, does this belief actually still serve you? There's a story about a mom making a pot roast. And the little girl goes, Mommy, how come you cut off both ends of the pot roast before you put it in the oven? And the mommy says, well, I don't know, honey. That's just the way my mom always did it, so I do it too. So they phone up Grandma, and Grandma says, well, I don't know, honey. That's the way that my mom always did it, so that's the way I've always done it. So then they call up Great Grandma. And Great Grandma says, well, you see, whenever I was a little girl, we didn't have a pan big enough to fit the pot roast, so we had to cut off both ends to make the roast fit in the pan. And this is how our beliefs are passed down from generation to generation, and we hold on to them, and they're not our truths, but we will fight tooth and nail for these beliefs because we've never challenged them ourselves. We've never been that little girl going, well, how come we're cutting the ends off the roast?
Yeah, well, we've lost our curiosity, and like you said, we take on those beliefs from our parents and the significant adults in our lives when we're children, as if they were our own beliefs.
Exactly.
Their lives. So, as an adult, we have the opportunity to explore those beliefs, which is really exciting, and it's an opportunity for all of us.
Yeah.
Can you talk more about your work in this area?
Definitely. Whenever we're exploring our beliefs, we always have to ask ourselves, is it serving us? That's always the first key. There's so many beliefs that we have, and again, does it serve us for who we are now? And is it going to get us to where we want to go? A lot of times, just as I did, I was just going through life, reacting, and wanting and hoping, but not realizing that I had a choice and a say in my life. So whenever you have a belief, simply ask yourself, is this my belief? Was it my mother's belief or my teacher's belief or somebody else's belief? Do I want to hold on to it? Do I want to let it go? And is it going to serve what my goals are in life and what my purpose is in life? Because whenever you really start thinking about what it is that you want and start trying to live your life through conscious design versus just allowing everything to happen to you and believing everything that everybody says just because it's the way that you was raised, then you're not able to let go and move forward. It's a lot of work. It's as simple as accepting what happened in the past, and it's as hard as that. Because so often, like I said, your past does not define who you are, and that's where our beliefs came. And I could tell you numerous stories. My father was not a nice person in any way, shape, or form, but him and my mother remained married until my mom died. So he was always an integral part of our lives growing up, and even my children's lives. But I remember some of the things that he did, such as one Christmas morning, he told me to sweep the floor. I was about 6 or 7 years old. And he would not let me open my Christmas presents till I swept the floor to his satisfaction, which took me 6 hours to do. So therefore, I grew up, with this belief that everything had to be perfect or else you just wouldn't do it. And it's something that I had to let go of, that, hey, that was my dad's problem. It wasn't my problem. And forgiveness. And whenever you accept and you forgive, you're not letting it affect who you are, because otherwise I'm still letting him abuse me. I like to say that I don't even like to say that I'm a survivor. I'm definitely not a victim. I like to say I'm a winner in life. And regardless, whatever has happened in your past, if you're still believing you're a victim or you say I'm a survivor, well, what's surviving? It's living day by day. It's putting up with the crap. And I don't want to be a survivor. I want to be a winner because I want to win at life. And I think whenever you can let go of the belief that you're a survivor, because so many people think that that's a great thing, but really it's not, because it's just saying you're living day by day and you're not choosing your life that way. And a lot of that has to do with the beliefs that you've held about the things that happened to you, the beliefs about I can't accept it because it was so horrible, or it's unforgivable. Because anytime you don't accept the past, it's still keeping you prisoner in today. So if you want to define who you are today, it's imperative that you accept the past.
Yeah, I like, there's several things I want to pull out that you said that I really like. So you mentioned having your beliefs be in alignment with what you want in life. So having your beliefs support you and boost you up, so that you're moving towards what you want, what you say you want in life, versus what you don't want. And oftentimes what happens is, if you're not aware of your beliefs, they're moving you away from what you want. And the second point you brought up was forgiveness and acceptance. That's incredibly important in this journey of self-love, is to just let yourself make mistakes and know that that's part of life, and that's part of how we learn, is those mistakes.
Mm-hmm. And with forgiveness, anytime we're angry at somebody or we're sad about something happened, anything, I mean, whether it be something as horrible as the abuse, I didn't see it as horrible growing up, it was just my life. But looking back, I can see how some people think that it was just, a terrorizing experience, but it wasn't. Like, regardless what happened to you as a child, it was just your life and you accepted it. But whenever you're forgiving, it's, I lost my train of thought just totally.
That's okay.
That's so funny whenever you do that. But whenever you forgive, you are, anytime you're angry at somebody, you're angry because they did not act in a way that was pleasing to you. And if you're honest with yourself, there's lots of things that you have done that was not pleasing to other people too. It's just a part of who we are and how we interconnect. So therefore, whenever you let go of that, well, everybody should make me happy. My father wasn't born to make me happy, obviously. And as much as I love my children, I was not born to make them happy. They have to find their own happiness. And so whenever you think that, hey, if somebody does something that upsets you, they're not doing it on purpose. And I don't even think that my father was a monster because he had wanted to torture people or torture us. But I believe that, everybody's mind works differently. And I often wonder what my father must have experienced himself to make him turn out the way that he was. And whenever you can look at somebody else with compassion and know that they're human, and even though you may think what they did was so much worse than what you did, bottom line, whether it's something as simple as somebody lying to you about where they were, to somebody, beating the crap out of you, they did something you did not want them to do because you felt it violated yourself. And if you hold on to that, you're going to keep allowing them to violate you.
Yeah, and also when you're judging others, you're also judging yourself. Like, that energy that you put out comes back. Same thing if you're forgiving or accepting or trying to understand others with curiosity, then you allow more space for yourself, for you to treat yourself that way.
Mm-hmm.
It becomes a habitual form of behavior, whether it's judging or being loving and compassionate.
Right. I've told this story lots in my divorce coaching. My aunt got a divorce after, I don't know, 40 years of marriage or so. She was around 45 when she got or 55, I guess, whenever she got a divorce. And she decided whenever she got a divorce, I'm going to make Joe pay till the day he dies. And she lived for this, to make Joe pay till the day he died. She met this multimillionaire that wanted to marry her. She refused to marry him because she didn't want to let go of her alimony, because Joe was going to pay her till the day she died. And when I got a divorce, she goes, you should make Earl pay just like I'm making Joe pay. And I'm like, okay, Aunt Jen. And she died at the age of 93, and I talked to her about 6 months before she died, and she told me, I am happy that I made Joe pay till the day he died. And I think how sad that she held on to this anger of Uncle Joe for, I don't know, 35, 40 years, which robbed her of so much peace and happiness. And that's what anger does. Even though she had a lot of happy moments and different things in those 35 years, she could not live her life to the fullest because she could not experience true peace and true happiness because of her anger towards Uncle Joe and making him pay till the day he died.
Yeah, absolutely. One thing I find for myself that is really helpful is that I choose to believe that life happens for me, that even the challenges are placed there for me to grow and to learn and to evolve as a human being. And I like to take it even a step further. I believe that my parents were chosen by me before I came here so that I could have those challenges. My father also was a challenge in terms of being critical and you know, the physical abuse, you know, that happened. And I don't blame him, because that was part of my evolution, and that's what has made me who I am. And so honestly, I can only be thankful. I didn't like it, and looking back, I still don't like it.
Right.
But I accept it. I accept it as part of my evolution. And I believe that when we're in a place of acceptance versus resistance, it can change everything.
Yeah, I always say the same thing whenever I really tell people a lot about my story. They're like, I feel so sorry for you. I'm like, don't feel sorry for me. Everything happened for a reason. And if I would not have had all the horrible experiences that I had, I would not be who I am today. And it's, you know, and like you, I believe that I chose my parents. I believe that I chose my circumstances. And it's led me to be able to help so many others in their own journey. And to me, and I've always said this, if what I experienced can help one person lessen their pain, it was all worth it.
Exactly. Thank you, Cindy. So, do you have a couple of tips for everyone who's here with us today?
First of all, explore your labels. You know, whenever we're growing up, we have these labels. And I did want to mention this because it's so important. We live by our labels and we think that that's who we are. So even if, you know, you had a good life growing up and they would go, oh, Mary's so smart and Jane's such a sweet little girl and how quiet she is, or she's a good cook. And these are all labels: good cook, quiet little girl, smart. And you can attach yourself to these labels so much that you think that these define who you are. And all these are is beliefs that you have inherited from everybody else. And a lot of times these beliefs are going to keep these labels from the beliefs keep you stuck from exploring something else or from going elsewhere. If you were told, especially that you're such a good little girl, you know, and I mean, you know, who didn't like hearing that whenever they was a little girl? You're such a good little girl. But then we start thinking, if we are assertive and we set boundaries, which is imperative to living a full life, is to set boundaries and to enforce them. Because a lot of women have a hard time with this simply because it's a conflict within believing that label. You're such a good girl. Good girls don't cause waves. We share everything with everybody. You know, and so these labels, you really need to identify what your labels are so you can understand how they're keeping you stuck and how they're keeping you from living your life to the fullest and how they're defining who you are. So I would say, first of all, identify your labels, definitely set boundaries. And you need to be assertive in order to enforce them, but being assertive doesn't have to be mean. You can say something as simple as, if somebody's trying to force their opinion on you, you can say something as simple as, thank you for sharing your opinion. I'll take it into consideration. Instead of fighting it or resisting it or saying that's not going to work for whatever. Because whenever you say that, first of all, you're respecting the other person. They shared their opinion with you. You're respecting them. You're acknowledging them, saying, I'm going to take it into consideration. Whether you know that you are or you aren't, you're still not letting them force their opinion down your throat by saying that statement. Also, whenever somebody gives you a compliment, if I handed you $1,000, you're going to go, oh, thank you, Cindy, that was so nice of you. But if I go, you look beautiful today, Marcy, you would probably accept the compliment because you're more, because of all the self-improvement you've done on yourself. But there's so many people that say, oh no, or I have a bad hair day, or this old dress, and so you're not accepting it. You are refusing the gift from somebody, just as if I offered you $1,000. So therefore, learn to accept compliments graciously, because they're giving it to you out of their heart. And whenever you accept it, you're starting to acknowledge your own value and the value that other people see in you.
Yeah. Okay, so you mentioned labels, healthy boundaries, and receiving, which is important in life because we want to be able to receive, whether it's money or happiness or joy or health. We want to be able to receive and not turn that away. The labels thing is really interesting. And it's true. So many people don't realize they're stuck in a label. I see it most often with my clients who come to me who have had chronic illness and they've been sick for a long time and
Yes.
they see themselves as unhealthy. The label is sick or unhealthy. And so that reprogramming is definitely part of the process. Healthy boundaries. Thank you for bringing this up. This is so important to be able to recognize that you're giving away your personal power when you don't have those boundaries, and you can have those boundaries in a way that feels good to you, in a way that isn't rude or isn't off-putting, but is still very much in alignment with what's important to you. Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's so very important. And also something else with receiving, it's receiving love from somebody else. And it's even receiving love to yourself. You need to be your own best friend, and you need to love and accept yourself the same way that you want other people to love and accept you.
Even more so, I would say, I mean, this is the most important relationship, the one you have with yourself. So yeah, I would say love yourself the most, and not in a narcissistic way, but in a true, meaningful acceptance and unconditional way.
Right. And that's just it. So many people don't understand the self-love thing. And basically, one of my favorite quotes is by Eleanor Roosevelt. No one can make you feel inferior without your permission. And I love it because you can interchange that word inferior with any emotion in the world. And so if no one can make you feel angry without your permission, that's because you love yourself enough that you're not going to allow their actions, that you know their actions do not define you. So you're not going to allow their actions to make you angry. And the same with no one can make you feel loved without your permission. It's the same thing. It's you are going to love yourself enough that you're only going to accept love from those who honor your boundaries and accept and love you exactly as you are and not trying to change you.
Yeah, and that goes back to you having the choice in your response. You get to choose your response.
Yes. Everything is responsive.
And thank you for bringing up the love thing too. That can be harder for some people than even the negative emotions.
Most definitely. It was for me. I mean, I was, from all the abuse that I endured and everything that happened, I didn't feel, I know that I didn't love myself. And I was always trying to figure out why I was the way I was, what made me tick. I'm the baby of the family, so I would research that. My ex-husband was adult child of an alcoholic. He was your textbook adult child of an alcoholic. And so I had all this knowledge, but I didn't understand it. I didn't own it. I didn't own it as my truth. It was just like what's out there, but I didn't love myself, and I definitely defined myself by everybody else. I was the boss's wife. I was expected to dress a certain way, look a certain way, and talk a certain way. And that's really how I identified myself, was the boss's wife.
Thank you. Well, you have shared so much great information today. I know this is going to be really valuable for so many of the people listening. Cindy, before we talk about your free gift, which is really exciting, is there anything we haven't covered that you wanted to mention?
Real quick, I think I just want to say, whenever you own your truth, a lot of people's like, well, what is my truth? And I found something that works for most people, even whenever you're first starting out. If you have a choice between two things, or you state something out loud, if you stand up and you state it out loud, I always say, hey, start out with saying, my name is Cindy, or I am Cindy, I am Marcy. If I say I am Marcy, it doesn't feel good in my body. I can automatically feel it in my body. So if you're trying to make a choice, should I marry this guy? Should I leave this guy? Should I take this job? Should I move? Whatever your choices are, whenever you state them out loud, and you in your beliefs, like, am I cutting the ends off the roast because my great-great-grandmother did it, or is it really my belief right now? And whenever you state, I believe that I am worthy, if you don't believe it, you're going to feel it in your body. And so it's stating it out loud. There's something about the verbal voice, the outspoken voice, that's really going to make you connect with your body, with whether or not it's your truth. And so whenever I talk to people about owning your truth, that's a big key and a big tip, to own your truth. Because whenever you keep asking yourself if this is my truth and you test it this way, you're going to grow and you're going to evolve, and you will start to fall in love with yourself more, and you will start to make better choices for your life.
Thank you. That's such a good tip. I love that. And it's simple but powerful to say something out loud like that, and to get in alignment with your truth by figuring out yes or no, and keep doing that. So that's wonderful. And actually owning your truth is a big part of self-love. So thank you.
Yes.
Okay, good. All right, Cindy. Well, why don't you tell everyone about your amazing free gift?
Thank you. Yes, I will. It's a gift. It's 14 Ways to Live and Love Fully. It's a program valued at $197. And because you're a guest of Marcy's fantastic cutting edge convention, then you are getting this for free. So you can visit livefullylovefully.com CEC. And in the 14 Ways to Live Fully program, you will be getting tips and techniques on loving yourself by putting your own oxygen mask on first, how to create personal and business relationships that support you and honor who you are. And there's a lot of really key tips on every relationship you have in your life, be it with your child, your mother, your next door neighbor, your boss, your employees, your coworkers, anybody at all. There's some really important tips about defining the type of relationships you want and not allowing yourself to fall into toxic relationships. And also practical tips on how you can live each day to the fullest. And what it is, it's 21 short videos that are delivered to you over the course of 21 days.
Wonderful. Okay, that sounds amazing. So once again, it's livefullylovefully.com/CEC for Cutting Edge Convention. And I'm going to post the link, so it'll be really easy. But just in case you don't have it, just pop over to Cindy's website, Live Fully, Love Fully. Cindy, thank you so much for being with us.
Thank you. Thank you to you. It's definitely my pleasure to be here. Thank you for having me as your guest.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, and to everyone who's here with us, thank you for being part of the Cutting Edge Convention. I'm Marcy Peters, and I will see you again soon for our next session. I want you to go out and have a happy, healthy day, and bye for now.
Thank you for being part of the Cutting Edge Convention. We don't want you to miss a single valuable session. To have the entire event available to you at any time, purchase the package now before the event ends. That's when the price goes up. And watch your emails to get your next steps from Marcy.